Okay, AI is now informing us that we're being recorded. So be
Oh,
nice to
yeah.
the AI, everybody.
All right.
Okay, I'm going to count us down. Welcome to the Burial Plot, where myself, Joy Yaley, and my partner in crime, Brenda Tolian, act as pallbearers, bringing the best of horror and its creators to listeners and viewers. On today's episode, we are lucky to have Angela Sylvaine. Angela is a self proclaimed cheerful goth who still believes in monsters. She writes primarily horror, science fiction, fantasy, and young adult. She has published one novella, Chopping Spree, and many short stories in various magazines and anthologies. She grew up in North Dakota and holds degrees in psychology and philosophy from the University of North Dakota. After marrying her high school sweetheart, they moved to Colorado and now live on the Front Range of the Rockies with their 3 cats. Angela is a member of the Horror Writers Association, Rocky Mountain Fiction Writers, Pikes Peak Writers, and the Denver Horror Collective. Angela, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm very excited to be here.
So that's very sweet that you married your high school sweetheart. Everybody go, ah.
Aw.
But the first thing I want to talk to you about is your cats, because we like familiars here. All familiars are always welcome on the burial plot. What are
Except
your
for our
kitties?
dogs.
Oh yeah, the dogs. Yeah. The kitties, yes. The dogs get locked out of the room. But tell us about your little kitties.
Well, as you heard, I have 3 of them, and we have some varied personalities, but they're all a little bit jerks, as all cats are. So my oldest, Noodle, is
Aw.
kind of the meanest to all the other cats, but the sweetest. She loves to cuddle. She's very sweet to us. She just constantly attacks any other animal. And then the middle one, her name is Luna, and she is very sweet. And then the youngest, her name is Loki, and she is a total terror. So the reason we named her Loki, she was a COVID cat. She was a COVID adoption, because we were getting bored being cooped up in the house here. So we decided to add a cat. And she chewed her way out of her cat carrier on the way home from the shelter. So we knew she was, and got loose in the car. So we knew she was going to be a handful, and she certainly is. But we love all 3 of them, are just constantly amusing.
Do they help you write, or do they make writing more difficult for you?
Well, they are very typical in that, I think you know as well, if you have cats, most of them like to sit on your keyboard or be very distracting while you're trying to write. So, yes, I think they try to help, but they're probably more of a hindrance than anything else.
They're like, look, Mom, I'm helping.
I'm like, yes, I love you. Please get your butt off my keyboard.
So, Angela, one thing about you is I've noticed that your short stories show up in a lot of really interesting and fantastic anthologies. And I was just wondering if you have a favorite story, a favorite anthology, and why that would be.
That is a good question and a really tough one. It's kind of like picking your favorite child or your favorite cat, I guess. But yes, I've had the privilege of being included in many fantastic anthologies. But if I had to pick one, the one that comes to my mind as a favorite is Not All Monsters, a women in horror anthology that was edited by Sara Tantlinger. And that collection was a finalist in the Bram Stoker Awards that just recently happened, which shows that the quality of the stories in the collection was great. My story is called Antifreeze and Sweet Peas, and it's about a woman who runs a bakery and is able to see blood on the hands of men who have killed women. So she has this kind of special sight, and she uses her bakery to serve up justice in the form of poisoned pastries. So that's what my story is about. And I really love that story. But and the collection was itself is fantastic and well received. But I think the real reason it's the most meaningful to me is because of how much I enjoyed working with Sara as the editor. She was really wonderful. And she also actually kind of concurrently to this anthology being developed served as my mentor through the HWA mentorship program, which was a fantastic experience. And she really helped me ramp up the quality of my writing. I told her going in, one of my goals was to become an active member of the HWA. That was kind of on my list of accomplishments I wanted to achieve. I really wanted to vote in the Bram Stoker Awards. And so she really helped me get there, and I was able to achieve that goal. She's also an award winning writer of dark poetry. So she kind of inspired me to try that as well. Poetry is something I find extremely intimidating, but she really pushed me to get out of my comfort zone. And because of her feedback and encouragement, as well as a couple of other friends, I tried it. And I actually recently had my first poetry acceptance too. So I guess now I can maybe call myself a poet. I don't know if one is enough, but we're getting there. Um, but really, it's an example of someone who just took the time to share her expertise and experience with me and just kind of foster me and mentor me, which is so important for beginning writers, which I kind of still put myself in that category, even though I've been really taking it seriously for maybe about 4 or 5 years. I still kind of think of myself as a newbie compared to many. And having someone who is that supportive of you, I think makes all the difference, because rejection is such a big part of writing. If you don't have someone who is like lifting you up and believes in you, you're not going to make it, you know? So it's just an example of where the writing community can be really fantastic. So that's why I pick her anthology as my favorite.
Yeah, that was one thing that struck me about Stoker Con is how supportive everybody was of each other, and how willing even seasoned writers are to just come alongside, people like me that basically nobody, but are willing to come in and talk to you and, talk about your stuff online and stuff like that. And I was just really impressed by that. And I feel, I don't know, I don't write in any other genres, but I feel like the horror community in particular is very giving of their time to each other. That always makes me feel warm and fuzzy inside. And then it makes me think of ways to make that the opposite when I'm writing something. So
I agree. I think you're right. And I wonder if it kind of has to do with the fact that other genres sort of judge horror, right? So, and other writers and potentially just outsiders are like, you write horror? Like, what's wrong with you? So we all kind of have our own thing going on, where I think we feel like we have to stick up for each other and defend our merit, because nobody else is going to. They don't understand us. So I think you're exactly right. We have a really tight knit community in many ways.
yeah, for sure. This was my first Stoker Con that I've been able to go to, because usually, it requires travel, and this time it was virtual, so it was easy to be a part of it. And I really enjoyed it. I had a good time. I am not a member of HWA, but it's just a matter of getting my paperwork together and doing my thing. So I need to get that done. I lurk in all of their groups and kind of on the fringes of things, and I just need to stop being creepy and get my membership taken care of.
Yeah, you better, join us.
Enjoy. They're what is
Join us, Joy.
oh, they're calling me. They're calling me. So, what kind of brought you to writing horror?
Well, I'm I mainly write like adult and YA horror, and it partially it's kind of just become what I'm good at. I think when you first start writing, you try things and you just sort of notice the direction that you start to go. I actually originally started trying to write romance, um, and it doesn't really work when your story becomes really twisted and very frequently does not have a happy ending, especially if someone dies or becomes a monster or what have you. So it was pretty clear that wasn't going to work. And my natural tendencies were coming through. And I think it probably has a lot to do with what I grew up reading. I used to read a lot of Christopher Pike and that kind of thing when I was younger. And then when I was a little older, Stephen King, of course, like all of us. So I think it was just in my DNA from a young age. But as far as like why do we read horror? Why are we attracted to that? Um, I've given that some thought. I'm going to get a little psychological here with you, but growing up, there was this kind of understanding that you always put on a happy face, right? That's probably why I'm a cheerful goth. I've never gotten rid of it. I can't. It's like I have to smile. I have to always be happy. Like smile no matter what is happening. Some of that is cultural, coming from North Dakota. I have some of that Midwestern nice kind of thing going on. But I think it goes even more so for girls. Be happy, smile, look perfect no matter what. And so, but I also, as a kid, there was this expectation that you kind of used it to hide the bad stuff, right? So if there were bad stuff happening at home for me as a kid, and I went through some tough things related to alcoholism and domestic violence and that kind of stuff, but you always covered it with a smile. You never let anybody see behind that facade. And so when I think back to like why I was attracted to reading horror, I kind of wonder if that's why. If I had to be so perfect on the surface, that horror was the opportunity and kind of the safe way for me to kind of confront bad things and admit there were monsters and fight them in an imaginary world. So that's kind of my theory. I don't know if it plays out, but I guess that's my kind of undergrad in psychology theory. And by the way, things got better and I'm very happy now, but I just have that dark leaning. It's in my core. I've been fascinated with spooky things ever since. And I like to write them into stories. So
No, that totally makes sense. I can relate to that
Yeah,
completely.
me too. Me too. Pulling from that dark place, you know. I don't you think, Joy, too? It's like, I don't know, it's cathartic to write horror. It's like it's healing. It's so strange to say that when, you might be like having, a character get gobbled up by, a Wendigo or something like that. And we were all three of us were in the Wendigo and
yeah,
consumed Tales of the Wendigo together. And then you guys actually, your book, Denver, is it 52? I always say the wrong numbers.
Tara at 5280. Yeah, we're in
Yeah,
that together. I'm
because
with
you
Angela
guys,
in that. Mhm.
yeah, that book won an award. I think so. We make it work for us, you know.
that's
For
right.
So
sure.
Own it. It's like taking it and making it your own power and kind of
yeah,
owning those bad things. And yeah, I agree completely.
no, I loved your definition of it. I'm just, yeah, we might have to write that down.
And
That's
put it
really
on a
good.
poster
Yeah, exactly.
card, whip it out
Exactly.
and show it around. But yeah, definitely. It's definitely there's a catharsis in it. When you're writing about some of those really dark things. And one of the things that I appreciate is when it comes from female writers, because you see that from the female gaze and from the female point of view, which is very different sometimes from the male point of view dealing with the same subject matter. And I think it's important, especially for women, because a lot of times, we suffer these terrible things, but like you said, we have to smile and we don't talk about it because, you don't want to make anybody uncomfortable or whatever. And for myself on the page is where I can just let it all out there.
Right. Yeah. I wish we had, I hope we get to the point where we have role models like that for younger girls. When I think about growing up reading horror and I read all men, I'm like, that's bull. Even though I loved those authors and I still love them. I hope we get to the point where women authors in horror get as much recognition as the men, and they're kind of given the opportunities to really become those household names so people can be more impacted by our stories, which are told very differently and are very unique. So we need to have a voice for sure.
I think it's becoming more prevalent. I think sometimes publishers have, Brenda and I have talked about this before, where sometimes, you'll submit a piece of writing somewhere and you're kind of like, oh, they're going to see my name and they're not even going to read it because I'm a female, right? And I think that's happening less and less. I think even just 4 years ago, I think it was a problem. People told me, don't publish under your real name. Nobody wants to read horror written by somebody named Joy.
See, and I'm like, that's awesome.
It's like, well, I'm sneaky. So, but I think it's getting different. And I think smaller presses are more willing to take a risk on female horror authors. So that there's a lot more out there. I think of the Mary San Giovanni's that sort of trailblazed that, and the Anaya Alborns of the world. And I definitely look up to those ladies.
Yeah.
Always Anne Rice, because, she was one of the first female horror writers I ever read when I read Interview with the Vampire when I was a kid, which sorry if my parents didn't know that, but now you do.
They're like, this is where all those dark ideas came from.
Like, now we know why she's so messed up. It wasn't us, thank God.
Well, we're also getting presses that are, small independent presses that are getting, that are led by women. I think that's been a huge improvement as well. And then and then men asking questions like, in DHC and Denver Horror Collective, Josh asking, so what do we do to make it better, and actually I've been seeing that a lot with the Horror Writers Association too. The leadership asking those questions like, how can we support, women? How can we support other groups that kind of get, pushed to the side? And I find that really like encouraging. Like, I really think we're going in a really good direction. The data doesn't always support that, but I think that I say data because I've been doing a critical work on it for my master's and stuff, but I think that'll be turning around.
I hope
going
so.
forward.
I agree. There's a lot of great stuff happening. Hopefully we'll keep the momentum going, and
yeah,
it's an exciting time to be a female horror writer, that's for sure. We'll have to edit this out, but I have to mute myself because my husband just came home.
Sounds good.
I don't know if you guys can hear that German Shepherd.
Yeah. Pet the dog. Just pet the dog. You want me to ask a question while you're muted?
He let her outside, but yeah, go ahead and ask the question. Sorry.
Okay. Let's see. Well, which one were we on? We talked about, I'm gonna have to edit this out too. Did we ask about the writing publishing process?
No, we did not.
Okay. All right, so I'll just put a finger up here so I know to edit that out. Okay. What do you find most difficult about the writing and publishing process? Especially since you've got a lot of stuff out there. What have you come up against? What has been easy? And then your process too, like, when do you find time to write and stuff like that? We'd love to know.
Sure. I would say the toughest part of the process this is probably the answer for almost every writer out there, is rejection. That is just something you have to get used to. It comes with the territory, and it's going to happen no matter who you are. I think when I first started writing, I did novels. And so I have a few novels unpublished, which were great experiences and helped me become a stronger writer. But one of the reasons I started to do short stories was because it was so much more gratifying. I didn't just feel like I spent a whole year writing a novel and I failed. You know what I mean? Not that it is failure, but that's how I felt. And so writing short stories, you get the accomplishment of getting something done so much quicker. It just comes to fruition. You get to see it finished, and you're writing so many more individual items and submitting that even though you're getting a lot of rejection, you're you're gonna get some acceptances too. So there's a little bit of positive to keep you going. And that's kind of what I like about writing short stories. Not only does it make you develop a thick skin because you're getting a lot of rejections all the time, you also, it's keeping you going because those positives are going to come. It's like intermittent reinforcement, right? I'm getting all psychological. I don't know why, but it is proven that that actually will keep you going more. If you once in a while you get a positive thing, it's going to keep you going. So I think short stories have really helped me kind of overcome that fear of rejection and keep me going and keep me writing. Um, Additionally, the other thing that I think is a big challenge, probably for all of us, is kind of imposter syndrome. That is something, no matter what, I'm constantly doubting myself. I'm like, I'm not as good as other writers. That last story I wrote was pretty good, but I'm never going to write anything good again. I might as well just quit. It's constant, and I don't know that that ever ends, no matter how successful you are. So those are just struggles that I think it's kind of like we just accept it. It comes along with being a writer, and you have to take it with the craft. But it does get a little easier over time. And as far as my process, I'm not much of a daily writer. I find it hard to, some people will say you have to write every day to call yourself a writer. And I call BS on that. I think everybody works differently. Many of us have day jobs. I have a day job that's pretty demanding. And so it just doesn't work for me. I can't get in the headspace to write during the week. So weekends are really my writing time. And I usually write, on Sundays all day long and maybe a half day on Saturday. And during the week, I might do some kind of clerical type stuff, monitoring submissions and tracking stories and that kind of thing, but I don't really write. I really need like a chunk of time to focus and really get my head in the story. So that's kind of my process.
Yeah, I have a similar process as well. I don't I actually need a better process, however, because I'm a big procrastinator, and I might say I'm going to write for this entire Sunday morning, and then I end up reading stuff or going down the research rabbit hole or something like that. So, but yeah, I don't necessarily write every day either. I think about the story every day, but I don't write every day. I think Brenda has a pretty good schedule, and she sticks to it. So I'm kind of impressed by that.
I'm not married.
Oh.
So that helps.
I really think that, because I teach during the week and I do my school stuff during, I teach, and then I'm a student as well. And then Friday, because I only have a 4-day week, so Friday, Saturday, and Sunday I can write, I have adult children, so they don't need me to do anything. So I just hang out in my story. I'm probably like almost neurotic about it. I might be, maybe. I'm sure somebody's listening to this and going, yep, she's crazy and stuff. But yeah, I'm pretty disciplined about it, but it's not even about discipline. I just love to just swim in the story, and stuff. And I really think not having a partner is helpful. So
I could see that. If I could get rid of the husband, the kids, and the pets, I'd have a lot more time.
Yeah, I'll go walk my dog or something. I love, spending time with my animals, and I might run to the store with my kids or something, because all three of us are still doing the college thing, and so we all support each other living. But yeah, I'm an introvert. I have nothing else to do. I don't go anywhere. I hike and I write, and I'm boring otherwise. I don't know the discipline, or I'm just boring.
Well, it's just a happy coincidence.
Yeah, exactly.
Whatever works, take it.
So, Angela, you recently had a novella come out that's part of the Rewind or Die book series. First of all, tell us a little bit about the whole series, because I've noticed that there are some recognizable names in there as well as yours.
Yeah, it's Rewind or Die is a series of novellas from Unnerving Books. So they're all short. which is kind of cool. I think for me as a reader, I read a lot more novellas than I used to. I just like them. I like being able to fit them in, and I like things that I can even maybe finish in one sitting, without staying up all night. Um, so I think novellas are just getting more popular, so it's appealing to people. And the idea behind this Rewind or Die series is that the stories are inspired by the age of the VHS tape. So that's where the name comes from, Rewind or Die. So the books pull from the 70s, 80s, and into the 90s, that time period when you were going to the video store, and they explore kind of like just different tropes from that time period. So there are slashers, monster stories, the occult, aliens, you name it. So it's whatever the author's take on that time period is and what inspires them. I have read many of the series and liked them prior to ever writing Chopping Spree. My personal favorites are probably, I really loved Cirque Berserk by Jessica Guess. That one was awesome. And Benny Rose and the Cannibal King by Haley Piper was great. And there's many more. I could just go on and on. People should definitely check them out. But I had already loved the books as a reader, and I saw that Unnerving had an open call for submissions to the series, and they were accepting pitches. So you didn't actually have to have your book written. You could just pitch, which I had never done before, written something based on a pitch. So I put my story idea together, my concept, and I submitted it to the publisher, and they liked it. So then I wrote it, and they accepted it. So it was great.
Nice. Well, it's a fun read. It definitely has like the 80s slasher feel, like a film. It could definitely be a film. I really enjoyed it.
We were both agreeing with that. I was like, oh, this would be such a fun film to watch for sure. Yeah.
Hey, Netflix, if you're listening.
Yeah.
Call me.
So you really did capture the whole mall thing in that. And I don't know, were you a mall rat as a teen?
Oh, absolutely. I was definitely a mall rat. Me and my friends would literally have our parents drop us off at the mall and hang out like all day on the weekends. My local mall was called the Columbia Mall. It even had a jingle, meet me at Columbia Mall. See, that's how important it was
Oh,
to me. I
yeah.
still remember it. Um, but it had an arcade, a photo booth. I still have strips of those photos me and my friends took there. Um, so it was great. It was definitely something I enjoyed and has very positive associations in my mind. And actually, one of my first jobs was at the mall too. I worked at Spencer's Gifts. So that's where my knowledge of behind the scenes comes from. So when you're reading the book, it's because I actually do know where they take out the trash and like how the back kind of bones of the mall work because of that job. So
Yeah, I worked at Wilson's Leather.
yes, I remember Wilson. We had one just like 2 doors down from Spencer's.
Yeah. Yeah, it totally captured that whole time period. That was great.
I would have to go to the mall and then like change my clothes because my family is very religious. So I'd have to change. And then we'd be walking just circles and circles. And then I always felt like I was just like I was entering Satan's lair when I went into Spencer's because my mom, she said, that's the devil's work in there. My mom's, if she listens to this, I hope she doesn't listen to this.
Sorry, Mom.
But she didn't want us going to the Spencer's and stuff. So but now when we go because we don't live near any kind of store and stuff. So my kids want to go, they want to go in there. And Hot Topic still, at least Nico.
I always kind of wanted to work at Hot Topic. I felt like Hot Topic was cooler than Spencer's.
Yeah.
Really envied those employees. And
I'll still wear some of their clothes and just like cut out the tags so nobody makes fun of me because I'm at heart just like you, only maybe not the happy kind. I'm like,
You know what? There's room for all goths.
I know.
Umbrella.
My kids and I were talking about the mall, and the Orange Julius at the mall, and used to get a raw egg in your Orange Julius. Do you guys remember doing that?
Gross. I don't remember
You
that.
don't remember that? Oh my God. My
I did
kids
not
are
know
like,
that.
what? You could ask for a raw egg? I'm like, yeah, they'd put it in your Orange Julius.
For the protein, or why?
I guess. I don't know. It was the 80s. We were all like, everybody's wearing those weird weightlifter pants, and everybody thought they were super buff. So yeah, probably.
It probably was like a workout. It was part of that workout craze or
It
something.
must have been, right? That is so funny. But yeah, you think about that nowadays and it's like, oh my gosh, what were we doing?
Gross.
So Angela, we were kind of hoping that maybe you would share some of your writing or read a piece. That would be excellent.
Sure, I would love to. I can read a little bit from Chopping Spree, give you a little taste. And this really kind of based on your description, people already probably know this, but I really think of this as a YA kind of book, which I love. I love YA. I will die on that sword. I don't care how old I get. I will read books about teenagers because I love them. Um,
I was thinking I would introduce this, like I bought it as an ebook, but I think I'll buy it as a hardback because I teach high school. So
Great.
yeah, I have some kids I think that would really enjoy it. So
I hope so.
yeah.
Yeah, and I think YA, part of the reason I like it is because you get so deep into the character. Adolescents, teenagers are kind of allowed to be self-obsessed. And, often things are written in first person. You just get so into the character, which I love. And it's just such a time of turmoil, which I think just makes for a great story. So that's kind of why I love YA. And when you think of slashers, it's perfect. Most slashers are pretty much a YA story. So it really fits. And this one in particular, so I kind of mentioned I was going for something fun and just campy and fast paced. I wanted it to be fun to read. It's not serious horror. It's sort of like you said, Joy, meant to be kind of like watching a horror movie that also has a soundtrack. So that's kind of what I'm going for. And I'm going to read you a section that is a little bit past the beginning. So we join Penny, who is a teen girl who recently got a job at the Eden Hills Fashion Mall. And at the start of her shift, she had a strange encounter with a man dressed as a wolf that was ranting about an altar of capitalism and hunting pigs. Eden Hills Fashion Mall will close in 5 minutes, a voice announced over the loudspeaker, interrupting Dead Man's party. Penny grimaced as the lyrics told of a man dying from a lightning strike, all while the storm still raged outside, the crack and roll of thunder audible even through the dense layers of concrete surrounding her on all sides. Threads was almost empty, with the last remaining shopper checking out at the island of registers in the middle of the store. The shift lead, Faye, finished the young woman's transaction with a cheerful, "Thanks for shopping at Threads." After the customer left, Faye picked up her dog-eared copy of Atlas Shrugged and flipped the page. For some reason, the girl was obsessed with Ayn Rand. Penny stood near the front display windows at a tiered table of men's polos in an array of pastel colors, using a board to fold each one and stack them into piles according to size. Yelena rolled by, using the fitting room's return rack as her own personal scooter. Clad in a black long-sleeved mini dress and combat boots, she clashed with everything in the store. "You're going to get in trouble," Penny whispered. Yelena hopped down from the rack, tucked her cropped black hair behind one ear, and the silver charm bracelet on her wrist glittered under the lights. Penny noticed a strange charm stamped with what looked like a capital P and an L combined into one. The symbol looked oddly familiar, but she couldn't place from where. "Please, what are they going to do? Fire me?" "Maybe," Penny replied, though she knew that was impossible. Yelena's parents owned the store, so she could get away with anything. Yelena grabbed a mannequin with a teased-out brunette hairdo and pulled it from its stand. She held it close, clasping its hand and spinning in a circle. Penny snorted a laugh. "You're in a good mood." The change in her friend over the last year was amazing, and she had them all to thank for it. Before opening Threads, Yelena's family had been struggling to pay the bills and fighting nonstop. Now they were all happier than ever. "Keep that to yourself. I have a goth image to protect." As Yelena stuck her dance partner back on its stand, the brown wig slid from its head and dropped to the floor like roadkill. The image of the weirdo from earlier flashed through Penny's mind. "Hey, did you see a guy running around earlier in a wolf mask?" "A wolf mask? No." "He was kind of creepy. I mean, who wears a mask to shop?" "The Halloween store opened last week. Maybe he was trying out his costume." "Yeah, that's probably it." His rantings about an altar of capitalism and hunting pigs kept playing through her mind. Faye walked past them down the center aisle, her blonde ponytail bouncing with each step, and grabbed the pole tucked in the corner. She used the hook to lower the metal gate that spanned the front entrance and flipped the lock, then faced the other girls, arms crossed. "Have you finished returns? Balanced your drawer? We can't start inventory until all that other stuff is done." "You're not the boss of us, Faye," Yelena said. "This isn't the cheer squad." Penny held back a smile. I think she is like literally the boss of us." And Faye was actually pretty cool to work with, taking extra time to show Penny how to make a schedule and submit payroll so she'd be qualified to be a lead herself soon. "Mellow out, babe." Dirk strolled up from the men's fitting rooms in the back of the store and draped a muscled arm over Faye's shoulder. He grinned, displaying the cutest dimples Penny had ever seen. Well, the second cutest. Her previous next door neighbor and first kiss, Becca, had killer dimples. Penny frowned. Were Dirk and Faye dating? "So are you guys ready for some fun tonight?" He pulled a mini bottle of brown liquor from his pocket, cracked it open, and chugged. A sharp whiff of whiskey stung her nose. Yelena had warned her they usually turned inventory nights into an excuse to party. The three of them were all a year ahead of Penny, who was a junior, and this was her chance to prove herself. But if her dad found out she was drinking at work, he would never trust her again, and he definitely wouldn't give her a job managing one of his restaurants. She couldn't stay. "Babe, can we at least finish our work first?" Faye reached up to fiddle with the necklace that had been tucked into her collar, a silver chain and charm identical to the one on Yelena's bracelet. "Hey, what is that thing?" Penny asked. "What thing?" Faye said. "That symbol you guys are wearing." Penny pointed to the necklace. "Oh, it's a mall thing, like an anniversary gift once you've been here a while," Yelena said in a rush, sharing a glance with Faye. Penny narrowed her eyes. Her best friend was lying. Dirk winked and held up his hand to show a signet ring with the same symbol. "Don't worry, Red. You'll earn yours soon." "Red?" Faye snorted. "What? You know I've got a thing for hot redheads." Dirk strode off, with Faye trailing after him. "You can't just flirt with other girls, Dirk," Faye said. Penny's cheeks heated, and she was grateful he hadn't stayed to witness her embarrassment. Had he really been flirting with her? Yelena grabbed her arm once the others were out of earshot. He likes you, she said in a sing-song voice. "Yeah, right." Penny's excitement about Dirk faded with the thought of those matching charms. She'd seen little of her friend lately and thought she'd been busy with work, but maybe Yelena had been pulling away to hang out with her new cool friends. "So what do you think? Are you going to stay for the party?" "Do you really want me to?" Penny asked, her tone sharper than she'd intended. "I wouldn't want to crash this secret little club you never mentioned." "Come on, stay. It'll be fun." She sighed. "I can't. If my dad ever found out, he'd disown me." "Dirk switched shifts to work tonight, you know, after he saw your name on the schedule." "No way." "I swear." Yelena made a little X over her heart with her finger. "Plus, I miss you. Please." Penny's resolve crumbled. Fine, I'll stay. Her dad couldn't be bothered to pick her up from work anyway, so he would never know. Whiskey did not agree with Penny, but to her great relief, she made it to the bathroom at the back of the storeroom before puking her guts out. She was a total lightweight, having only ever tried wine and on a rare occasion champagne. Squinting against the too bright fluorescent light that reflected off the white tiled floor, she rinsed her mouth and patted the sheen of sweat from her skin before reapplying her strawberry lip gloss. She sincerely doubted there would be any kind of makeout session with Dirk, considering he seemed into Faye, but she still needed to remember to find a mint. Her gaze strayed to the quote painted on the bathroom wall, visible behind her in the mirror. All wealth is the product of labor, John Locke. Elena's parents had stenciled the words there as motivation, but Penny questioned the choice every time she saw it. Hadn't they ever heard of teamwork makes the dream work, or there is no I in team? A muted scream interrupted her thoughts, and she shut off the water, straining to confirm what she'd heard. Another scream sounded, appearing to come from the other side of the wall by the toilet. Penny opened the bathroom door and peered down the aisle of clothing stacked metal shelves that lined the long, thin storeroom. Dirk, Faye, and Yelena sat cross-legged in a circle at the end of the aisle where she'd left them. The scream sounded again, louder this time, from the employee-only corridor that ran behind all the stores. Penny considered telling the others what she'd heard, but she'd already embarrassed herself once tonight and decided to check it out herself first. It was probably just someone fooling around anyway. She crept toward the store's rear exit and pushed into the door-lined corridor, a wide and high-ceilinged hallway used for deliveries. A guy in a yellow polo and visor that served as the uniform for Cousin Patty's Pretzels next door lay just a few feet away, curled into a ball on the concrete floor with a pool of blood widening beside him. Oh God! She dropped to her knees beside him, tentatively touching his shoulder. What happened? The guy rolled to his back, revealing the source of the blood, a massive wound in the center of his chest. Help! Stabbed. He stabbed. The guy coughed, spraying her face in a mist of blood. Trembling, she pressed her hands to the wound. Help! She yelled. Help us! Someone needed to call an ambulance, but she could feel his blood seeping through her fingers and knew she needed to keep pressure on the wound. Who did this to you? He grabbed her wrist and raised his head. The wolf. Wolf. The word echoed in her mind, brought up the picture of the snarling snout and that strange man who'd scared her.
Oh gosh, I love that. That is so good.
Yeah.
Thank
Thank
you.
you for sharing that. That is so good. It's just like watching a movie.
Yeah. The
It's so vivid.
details and just like it was taking me back. I think that for some of us it's going to be nostalgia.
Yes, that's great.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, you captured it completely. I don't know how you could have improved it. It was perfect. Perfect.
Thank you so much.
I really enjoyed it. I might read it again, actually. Now that we're
great.
chatting about it. I'm gonna have to go back and read some of the other ones in the series too, because I've been looking at some of those and I was like, gosh, these all sound really, really interesting. So especially that's kind of my time era, the 70s and 80s. So
yeah, I love that kind of nostalgia. And I'm a real sucker for musical references. I
love that too. Oh. And then the novella, during Stoker, I think it was Stephen Graham Jones was like making a talk about the novella, bringing it back, and finally, and I appreciate a read that I can just enjoy, and maybe I do read it in like a day or two or something, but I find novellas are just like, I don't know, like my favorite dessert in some way.
Me too. They're kind of easier, you don't feel, it's not such a commitment. It's, a little more fun sometimes. And his was great. Night of the Mannequins was amazing.
It was pretty terrific. Yeah.
He's a favorite around here. We make no excuse about that.
I agree.
Someday we'll get him on here.
Oh, then you can watch me fangirl and make a fool of myself. But yeah.
Yeah, right. He seems pretty, he'll be able to handle that, I think.
But can I handle it? I'm not sure.
I might have to go to her house and like fan her while she's talking, you know?
Yeah.
At least if it's on Zoom, you'll have a little bit of space to kind of get yourself under control.
Right. Embarrass myself. Okay.
I think your style kind of reminded me a little bit of, like his, like more when he writes a good a slasher or something.
Yeah.
Like just that, like, kind of like there's a little bit of wonder, there's innocence, it's like, I don't know, like we all know it wasn't a pure time, but we like to think about it that way. But just youth and what
Totally.
scared us then as opposed to what scares us now,
Right.
and stuff. And that's why that's why I'm enjoying your writing there for sure.
Great. Thank you so much. Yeah, I know what you mean. I love that about slashers. It's kind of this something intruding on innocence,
Yeah.
You've got these groups of friends having fun and they're not expecting it, and then something evil comes along.
Yeah. And they just don't have that experience to deal with it,
Yep.
and yeah, there's just something sweet about that kind of horror, that yeah, it's great. It's really good. And I've heard you read before. Oh gosh, it's probably been a year. But I saw you read. Did you read?
Was it must have been the Denver Horror Collective one, maybe,
Mm-hmm.
or they're at 5280.
Yeah, yeah. And I was like, oh, that's so cool. I want to be like them. It was such a good.
And then we assimilated her.
Great. Yes.
I am not walking around going brains yet, so that's at least good.
That's at least like a week off, but it's coming.
Yeah.
So Angela, what are you working on right now? Are you working on, you got a project in the works or?
I have a couple things coming out soon. So July 1st, I'll have a story coming out in a collection called Welcome to the Fun House. Ooh. From Blood Rights Publishing. It's all carnival themed horror, so that's really awesome. And my story is called The Cyclone Sisters Circus. So it's about a circus that comes to town that everyone is required to attend. And it's, not necessarily a good circus. So that one's really fun. And then I also have one coming out soon in What One Wouldn't Do, which is a collection from Scott Moses that's going to be very cool. And that one is called Blood is Thicker. It's about two sisters who run an art gallery, a kind of a failing art gallery, and start experimenting with the occult in order to save their gallery. So those are a couple things I have coming out later this year.
Oh, those sound awesome. Where can we keep track of these things that you're doing and have coming out? Is there a presence on the web where we can stalk you?
Yes, absolutely. I'm on social media, so you can follow me on Instagram and Twitter and Facebook. Just search Angela Sylvaine, and that's Sylvaine. And I also have a website with links and a full catalog of all of my work, which is angelasylvaine.com.
Nice. We will also put all of that in the show notes for everybody so they know where to go and find you and keep track of what is going on with you, because it sounds exciting. And I really do love your voice. It's really, everything's been a fun read and I really enjoy it.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for sharing with us. We appreciate it. Okay, folks. Well, I'm Joy Yaley, and I can be found, as always, on joyyaley.com. And Brenda can be found on brendatolian.com. Brenda, do you have anything else you'd like to add?
Not right now. Definitely check out Angela's website because it has wonderful covers.
Oh, beautiful covers.
It has a synopsis of, what the stories are about and everything. And it just, it's a lot of eye candy. Like, I gotta buy a few more of your books. I have a couple, but I need more.
That's awesome.
Yeah. It's a great website. I'm always looking at other writers' websites to see what they got going on. And yeah, I was enjoying what I was seeing. So
Yeah.
thank you so much for coming on to the burial plot.
Sure. Thanks
We're
for having
so
me.
excited. And yeah, I'll be quiet now.
Well, listeners, thanks for joining us. We hope you enjoyed our time with Angela Sylvaine. And I really hope that you go and look up Chopping Spree, because it is an enjoyable read. It will be a fun read. If you like slasher movies like Friday the 13th or Scream or any of those, you will enjoy this book. That's all we have for now, folks. So as always, until next time, stay above ground.